Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody to our show tonight. Folks, we have a lot of things we need to talk about. We really do. I want to go over to the USGS map. I hate the map, but we have a lot of things that are going on that all of us need to be aware of. Okay, plain and simple. Notice over here in the Philippines. Notice over here in the Philippines. Not a doggone word said about earthquakes at all. There are 38 earthquakes off the coast of the northeast, largest island of the northeast Mindanao, Philippines island. 38 earthquakes and not one USGS quake shown. Travesty. Travesty. The USGS says there's 30 earthquakes. 30 earthquakes. I call BS. I call BS. There's probably 24 earthquakes over here in Indonesia. Okay, right there. USGS showing one earthquake in central Indonesia. Modizo, actually it's not pronounced Modizo, Modizi, Indonesia. This is a 5.0 magnitude earthquake in central Indonesia. At least 24 other earthquakes have happened here that they are not willing to talk about. Down here in southern Indonesia, okay, Timor-Leste, Indonesia, we have another 5.0 earthquake, 147 miles deep. This earthquake that just happened here in red, this is also 107 miles deep. Two 5.0 earthquakes are showing, and there's at least 20 others. This one over here, just north of Java, a 4.2 moderate earthquake. But folks, that's not all. There's more. This earthquake is 501 miles deep. This is a deep earthquake. A moderate earthquake that is deep. What is this telling us? Okay? That a larger, shallower earthquake is coming. This is a 4.2. If we go over to the depth to magnitude conversion chart that we've shown you in the past, guess what we're going to have? Any guesses? We're going to have a 5.4 to 5.5 magnitude earthquake as a result of this 4.2 moderate earthquake just north of Java, Indonesia tonight. Okay? Isn't it interesting how that happens? A larger, shallower earthquake coming from that earthquake over just north of Java. That's not good news for Indonesia. That's not good news for the Philippines. That's not good news for Papua New Guinea. Or even over here in Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia. It could hit there as well. It could hit over here in Sumatra. There's plenty of earthquakes here in Sumatra today. They're not showing them, are they? Over here, okay? Folks, what we're showing you here is over in Samoa, American Samoa. Another 5.0 earthquake hit here. Just after 1:55 p.m. today Eastern Time. America, Samoa. A large earthquake hit here out in the Pacific Ocean, 455 kilometers south of Aveyah, and I know I'm butchering that Samoan name. Actually, maybe it's pronounced Vahoatal, American Samoa. A large earthquake hit there. It's over here just west of the Tongan Trench. Further here to the west, Wallace Futuna, a moderate 4.4 earthquake hit here. This was 361 miles deep. Another very deep earthquake. This earthquake is going to register or propagate another larger, shallower earthquake. The larger, shallower earthquake in this case is probably going to be a 5.2, 5.3 earthquake. Okay? Further to the southwest, Vanuatu. This was another 5.1 large earthquake. This one happened late last night, just after 10 p.m. after we got off the air. This earthquake is a shallow 45 miles deep. Okay? Let's go west. This earthquake hit late last night. Okay? Almost at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. A 5.4. This is the Southern East Pacific Rise. The Southern East Pacific Rise. A 5.4. Folks, we are getting hit just last week with 6s and even a 7 over in the Philippines. That 7 turned out to be a 9.0 earthquake. We showed that to you. That was after a series of solar flares, CMEs, coronal mass ejections. We haven't had a major solar CME in a week. It's coming. Over here in Chile, 1 earthquake. There's 24 earthquakes here in South America. They show 1. A 4.1 magnitude earthquake, 41 miles deep. They're not showing any earthquakes in Central America, none in southern Mexico. They're showing just a handful of earthquakes over here in southwestern Texas. This is Hermleigh, Texas, guys. Hermleigh, Texas. It's right smack dab in the middle of a huge, huge oil and gas farm. Oil and gas field. A farm, I call them. A 2.7 earthquake here. Further to the west, more earthquakes here in Texas. Mentone, Texas. Here is a 3.7. 3.7. We have more earthquakes over here in the Puerto Rico area. I'm going to report on this one here. This is a 4.4. Northwest of Cruz Bay, U.S. British Virgin Islands. This was a moderate 4.0 earthquake. 62 miles deep. North of Puerto Rico, another 3.2. 20 miles deep. Down here along the southwest coast of Puerto Rico, another 3.1. That is an aftershock of 2 8.0 and 8.4 earthquakes that hit here in 2019. This 3.1 here is 12.5 miles deep. An aftershock from a major earthquake that hit here 4 years ago. Okay? Let's go over here to the North Mid-Atlantic. There's a lot of information here. Okay? Let's go over here south of Iceland. This is Reykjanes mid-Atlantic fault zone. Okay? USGS calls it the Reykjanes Ridge. And I'm trying to pronounce that in Icelandic. Okay? This is a 4.7 earthquake, 10 miles deep. They're not showing anything here in Iceland. There are plenty of earthquakes here in Iceland. We talked about Grindavik last night. We talked about other towns north, south, west, and east of Grindavik last night. More earthquakes. More magma-caused earthquakes here in southern Iceland. Right around the Reykjanes Peninsula here. Near Grindavik. Near Grindavik. Some earthquakes here. It's continuing to happen. Let me give you just a brief update about what's going on here in the Grindavik area. Insurance companies have now descended on Grindavik. They're making an insurance assessment. An insurance assessment after the destructive earthquakes caused by the volcano. But it's not going to be good for the welfare of those Icelandic people that own homes here in Grindavik. It's not going to be good at all. There are over 90 homes right now that have been assessed at completely uninhabitable. They've either been knocked off their foundations or have huge structural issues they can't be moved back into. The insurance companies are calling them a complete loss. No one has gotten any money from the insurance companies. Not yet. But when they do, the people that have lost their homes, and this is a nationwide problem in Iceland, the people that have lost their homes, even though there is insurance that's supposed to be covering their losses, a catastrophic loss policy. The problem is the people are going to have to take the money that the insurance company is going to pay them, and they're going to have to pay for their home to be destroyed and carted off to the junkyard. They're going to have to take the money that the insurance companies are going to give them to pay for the complete destruction of their homes down to the ground, and then the remnants of what used to be their homes carted off to the junkyard. If they have any money left at that point in time, they can possibly use that to try to start again. But it's not going to leave them very much money at all. That's what's going on. It's very sad for those Icelandic people. Those people that I have spoken to seem to be wonderful, caring, loving people, just like most of you. But folks, they're not being treated right. They haven't even gotten any money. Now, the country of Iceland, the country itself has offered the people of Grindavik 3 months worth of money to be able to rent other homes away from Grindavik while they have been evacuated out of their homes in Grindavik. But given that information there, they still have to make their mortgage payment on their homes in Grindavik, as well as pay rent for the place where they're at now. This money started coming out after November 7th, when the earthquake started hitting in Grindavik, and the scientists determined that it was no longer safe to be there. They've only been given 3 months worth of money from the country. And after that money dries up, what are they going to do? It doesn't sound very good right now. Most of us are hoping that the country of Iceland will come forth with more money, because those poor people will have absolutely nowhere to go. And housing prices are tight, as they are all over the world. And housing just around Iceland is also tight. All over the country of Iceland, there's nearly 500,000 people living here. Just under 500,000 people living here in Iceland, wherever it might be around Iceland. There's not much housing available. And yet, the people in Grindavik have been evacuated from their homes, and they may not be able to return. Even though some of these people have been allowed to return to their homes between 7 a.m. in the morning and 3 p.m. in the afternoon to retrieve some of their belongings out of their homes and to take care of other business in Grindavik. The fishermen, as we reported last night, have gotten back to work. Other people that work in Grindavik have also been allowed, at least temporarily, to go to their businesses in Grindavik and try to earn some money so they can support themselves. But they're only allowed to be in their businesses from like 7 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then they again have to leave Grindavik because it's not safe to be there 24/7. And at any one point in time, the volcano could erupt within 2 hours time period. Now, I showed you last night and during the past several weeks since this event started happening in Grindavik, we showed you a lot of fissures that have opened up. Tons of fissures that have opened up here in Grindavik and around the entire area. Some of those fissures are 25 miles deep. 25 meters deep. Some of those fissures are 25 meters deep. Deep fissures. And the government, the authorities, are trying to fill those fissures in, to repair roads, to repair neighborhoods, so the people might be able to return to Grindavik at some point in time. About a week or so ago, they thought that the people of Grindavik might be able to return by Christmas. But those desires and those thoughts are quickly retreating as these earthquakes have now returned. They have not returned as bad as they were, but seismic events are still happening in and around Grindavik. Scientists and other authorities are searching for answers on what they're going to do and what they're going to allow other people to do as well. So this journey for the Icelandic people is ongoing, unfortunately. Now, I'm trying to arrange for an English-speaking Icelandic man, a scientist, to come on the air. As soon as I arrange that, I will let all of you know when he's going to come on the air with us. Okay? Unreal. We hope to get him on the air within the next week or so. He can give us a good evaluation of where things are at and what people can expect. Meanwhile, everyone, including that man I spoke to and many others, are asking all of us. They asked me to ask all of you, to tell all of you that the people of Iceland are asking for prayers. Families. Nearly 4,000 families have been inconvenienced after being evacuated out of Grindavik. and other friends and relatives where these families have evacuated to are having hard times. So they're asking for prayers, they're asking for help, and they are getting help. But they are asking for people's prayers, and they have got that. I promised him that we would be praying for him and others all over their country. But things are still happening. As I show you here north of Iceland, in the Norwegian Sea, the North Mid-Atlantic Fault continues to shake. This is a large 5.5 mid-range 5 earthquake. A very large 5.5 magnitude earthquake. USGS is saying it is 10 miles deep. About 18-19 kilometers deep. A fairly shallow earthquake by all matters. Okay? But this was in the Norwegian Sea up here, along the North Mid-Atlantic Fault. The seismic energy continues. Now, we made mention of something last night, and I'm going to reiterate it tonight. The Mid-Atlantic Fault is expanding. The Mid-Atlantic Fault is expanding. I showed you pictures of the damage here in Grindavik. I showed you the pictures last night, showing you the deep, wide fissures that have opened up here as a result of the earthquakes and the magma beneath the surface. The magma is only several meters deep beneath the surface now. That is why they're still saying it's not prudent for anyone to return to Grindavik, that the volcano could erupt within a 2-hour time period. So it's not convenient for anyone to be there. And if the authorities can, they're going to give people very short notice to leave when they see things ramping up. Okay? But, like I said, the fissures are widening out here. The fissures that have come up here since this earthquake sequence has happened. These fissures are due to the Mid-Atlantic Fault expanding. The Mid-Atlantic Fault is expanding. The western side of the fault is pushing the North American continent to the south-southwest. The eastern side of the Mid-Atlantic Fault is pushing Europe in an easterly direction. Meanwhile, here in Iceland, it appears that the Icelandic island is being split apart. The island is splitting apart. This is Grindavik. Let's go north. See this line here? This line here is part of the Mid-Atlantic Fault. And along this very same line, there's new fissures opening up. Again, the Mid-Atlantic Fault is expanding. It could be that the magma beneath the surface, beneath the fault, could be coming up as well. But meantime, the fault is expanding. The country could be ripped apart. The country could be ripped apart. What about further south here on the Mid-Atlantic Fault? As it expands, seawater is going to rush in. Ocean water, salt water is going to rush in. And there are other volcanoes down beneath the surface. What happens then? I'm just giving you a good hypothesis about what may be happening out here. Not just the whole North American fault being pushed in a southwesterly direction, and Europe and Africa being pushed eastward, the whole mid-Atlantic fault is coming apart. Okay? I'm just telling you the way it is. Surgery's asking me, Surgery is a dear friend of mine from years ago, and he is a mod on the Texas News Studio. He's asking me to send him information so he can put it out on the Texas News Studio chat room so everybody can know about it. And yes, I will do that. I will do that. I will get you this between tonight and tomorrow, Surgery. I promise you that. Okay? This is craziness. Okay? In all my years here on this earth, and even when I was going to college, they did not talk about the Mid-Atlantic Fault expanding. They didn't say anything about it. This is new news as of about the last year or so. The scientists didn't even ID it. The scientists did not even ID it until last year. So this is new news. A lot of people's lives are going to hang in the balance. We do not know how fast the Mid-Atlantic, well, the scientists know how fast the Mid-Atlantic Fault is expanding, but they're not telling us other than the fault is expanding. And we are seeing earthquakes on the East Coast. We're seeing earthquakes all over the United States and Canada as a result of the Mid-Atlantic expansion. And earthquakes over in Europe as well. Everybody is feeling this. Everybody is feeling this, guys. We've never seen anything like this before. Okay? I'm not trying to be a hero here. I'm just relaying information from scientists in Iceland, as well as scientists here in the United States and around Europe. They are all very much aware of this. And some of this stuff came out after something else happened the year before last into the beginning of last year. What happened? What happened, guys? Does anybody remember what happened? Down here off the coast of Africa here, down here in the Canary Islands, remember La Palma Island, guys? The Cumbre Viejas volcano? This is when scientists finally put two and two together, and they decided what was going on the Mid-Atlantic Fault. Only when this volcano started erupting on the southern part of the island. This is when all the data started coming together. That's when it started scaring not just the scientists, but everybody else. Okay? I wanted to give this information to you because you deserve to know about it. I am asking all of you to share this information, share this program with everybody you know. Everybody needs to have this information, and they need to have it as soon as possible. People have a right to the information, number one. Two, they also have the right to be able to have that information and to be able to use it to their best advantage. To be able to make decisions for themselves and their families. to make decisions for their own safety, whether they want to stay around in certain areas or not. And if not, where are they going to go? People have the right to make decisions for themselves. Notice what's going on here. Only one earthquake is being reported in the Middle East. What a crock of crap that is. There's about a dozen earthquakes here in the Middle East. This one is in southern Iran. Bandar, Iran. This is a moderate 4.3 earthquake. Not that big a deal. It's only a moderate earthquake. And nobody in Iran can monitor this program. Because of political pressures coming from the Islamic people that are in charge, they can't get this information. This is just along this fault line. Okay, look at that fault line. Okay, look at the fault line. The Gulf of Oman right here. Right next to the Gulf of Oman. A 4.3 earthquake. And the main part of the fault is east of there. East of there. But they're not talking about any earthquakes over here in Afghanistan or Tajikistan or anywhere else in Iran or Iraq. None. They're not talking. They're not saying anything of any earthquakes over here in eastern Turkey. There's plenty of them. There's about 20 some odd earthquakes over here in the Turkey-Syria border region. Why? Because earlier this year, there was a 9.0, 10.0 major earthquake over here that killed over 5,000 people and injured at least another 5,000 more. Major destructive cataclysmic destruction happened here. The people here are still trying to recover. And yet, they're facing moderate and small earthquakes all over this region as a result of that major earthquake that happened here earlier this year. The aftershocks here are going to continue for months and years in the future. We're seeing that everywhere where there's been a 9.0, 10.0 earthquake all over the planet. It's happened. It's happened. Earthquakes all over Turkey here. USGS not saying a dadgum word about it. They're not. Earthquakes happening here in western Turkey and the Volcanoes Islands that belong to Greece. USGS, quiet. Earthquakes here in Greece. USGS, quiet. Romania, quiet. Croatia, the Czech Republic, quiet. Italy, Sicily, quiet. Over here in France and Switzerland, the earthquakes here. USGS, quiet. Earthquakes over here in Spain. USGS, quiet. Earthquakes over here just off the coast of Portugal in the Azore Islands. USGS, deathly silent. Okay? It's incredible, guys. USGS says nothing. And millions of people are going to suffer for their stupidity. Yes, I am calling a spade a spade. That's the way it is. Now, I'm going to show you some seismograms over here in the Pacific Northwest. I have a few seismograms in California that I may not have a chance to show you. But over here in the southern Cascadia subduction zone region, we have an earthquake here off the Gorda Ridge in the eastern Pacific. This line here that goes from southwestern Pacific Ocean here that connects to the Gorda Escarpment, and then it goes up in a northeasterly fashion over here and connects with the Blanco Fracture Zone. This line here is called the Gorda Ridge. This earthquake is a 3.8 small earthquake. A 3.8 earthquake. This is off the coast of Port Orford, Oregon. This is 12.5 miles deep. 12.5 miles deep. You need to see this. Look at this. They're not showing one dadgum earthquake in the Pacific Northwest. Not one. The only earthquake that USGS is showing right now is right here. Okay? What is this? This is the geysers, 100 miles north of San Francisco Bay. Folks, they're only showing a 3.5 here. This is a travesty. Folks, yesterday, last night, there was a 4.5 and a 4.3 earthquake that hit the geysers. Two moderate earthquakes here. Two moderate earthquakes hitting the geysers here last night. Yet USGS is only showing us a small 3.5 here. 0.3 miles deep. A third of a mile deep. They're not even showing all of the earthquakes in this region. Okay? Folks, if those of you that haven't seen this program before, this is a geothermal region. What is it? Why? Why are they calling it a geothermal region? Because, folks, a lot of years ago, probably 40, maybe 50 years ago, the powers that be decided that they were going to dig into a volcano here. They were going to dig a great big huge hole. Many, many holes. There's probably 50 or 60 different holes here in the geysers that penetrate a volcano. That volcano is right here. Folks, this is the Clear Lake volcano. They have drilled a lot of holes into the Clear Lake volcano. Why? Why did they do this? They did this so they could obtain steam from the upper magma chambers of this volcano to power turbines down here in the geysers area. They built great big huge turbine facilities all over the hillsides here in Sonoma County. There's over 80 turbines all over the hillsides throughout the county here. 80 turbines. Now, folks, let me just show you what's going on here. Okay? USGS, in their infinite wisdom, is not showing any earthquakes here, and either is the European agency. Why? There's typically 25 to 30 earthquakes here every day. They're not showing the 2 earthquakes late last night that hit here. Moderate earthquakes that hit here. They're not showing those. They're not showing any other earthquakes that have hit here. Okay? They're not showing them. Why? Inquiring minds want to know. I think everyone has a reason to know what's going on, to be notified of what's happening. We've had small and minor earthquakes here in the geysers before. It's happened a lot lately. Over the last few years, it's happened a lot. It's going to continue to happen. Because everywhere where they've drilled one of these holes to obtain steam from the Clear Lake volcano, what's going to happen? Okay? Everywhere where they've drilled a hole is a man-made earthquake fault. A man-made earthquake fault. And what happens when that earthquake fault gets hit by seismic energy? There are other natural earthquake faults all over California, even here in the geysers area. There are a lot of them. There's a ton of them. But every time seismic energy hits either a man-made earthquake fault or a natural earthquake fault, it fractures rock at that fault line, doesn't it? Which causes the earth to move. And yet, the agency does not want to admit what's going on. Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid the people know what is happening. Don't they have a right? Doesn't everyone around the world have a right to know what's going on? I believe they do. And yet the agency is here, and they're not telling anybody about it. What's the problem with that? What is the problem with telling people what's going on? There shouldn't be a problem. There should not be a problem at all. But the problem is there. The problem is there. What if, and I've seen it happen before, even at the Clear Lake volcano, earlier this year we had two 4.5 earthquakes that hit the volcano. But in that case, or those cases, it was because magma coming into the magma chamber of that volcano was responsible for that earthquake, fracturing rock inside the volcanic chamber. As magma comes into these volcanoes, it's coming in under pressure, causing the rocks in the magma chamber to explode. Literally explode, fracturing, causing earth movement. That's a natural occurrence as a result of what they're doing here. It's a natural occurrence. And yet, what they're not talking about here, 20 plus earthquakes in this region today, and they're not showing them. They're not saying a dadgum word about it. Nothing. Why? Why? Why are they not advising people what is going on? Inquiring minds want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Inquiring minds deserve to know. 80 turbines here operating, pulling steam out of that volcano. And what's going on? more and more earthquakes hitting this area. Most of those earthquakes are just 1.0s, 1.4s, 1.7 tremors. There's also microquakes, 0.8, 0.7, 0.9 microquakes. And now we're getting moderate and small earthquakes. Moderate and small earthquakes right here. A 3.5 earthquake right here. Right here. Folks, look where this earthquake is here. I just zoomed in here randomly, just south of this earthquake. There is a bank of turbines here. See that bank of turbines on your screen here? You can see it. You can see it. There's also some drill points there as well, where they've drilled into the upper magma chambers of that volcano. Horizontal drilling into the upper magma chambers of the volcano. Yes, they do go down into the earth, but they also drill horizontally into the magma chamber. But you can see one bank of turbines here. Okay? I'm showing it to you. This is happening all over this area. Literally. All over this area. See these roads? Alongside these roads are thick plastic tubing carrying steam from the volcano. Over here are two more banks of turbines here. Okay? You can see it here. Off to the left here are some, and you can't see over here necessarily, but over here there are drill points. Drill points here, and there's also drill points here. Let me put it right in the middle of your screen so you can see it. There are drill points right here. Okay? Probably 50 plus drill points here in the geysers area. They've drilled into the upper magma chambers of the volcano to obtain steam to power turbines to generate electricity for Pacific Gas and Electric and 4 other conglomerates, including Rocky Mountain Power in Utah. Fact. Fact. NCWQ Explorer is here, and I thank her for being here as well. She's a very dear friend of ours, and we love her very much. She's trying to feed her family on very little. She has a ton of doctor bills as a result of an automobile accident. And she has very little. They have PayPal set up for NCWQ as well as I do. Folks, if you want to help her, check her information out on Facebook. You can find her PayPal locations on Facebook, and you can help her out this Christmas season. She needs it. Okay? Now, just briefly, I'm going to switch from the USGS map, and I'm going to show you 3 volcanoes. I have a lot more information than that, but we don't have time to go through all the information tonight. We can do it another night. But I promised you we would give you information about these volcanoes. Folks, It's go time. It's literally go time. We don't have too much longer before all heck breaks loose. I'm just telling you. Literally, I do not believe we have too much time to go before all heck breaks loose. Okay? Hurricane Heather says NCWQ has a fundraiser going on Facebook. She needs a blessing. Okay? And Heather says, I need a blessing. I need a blessing too, quite honestly. I appreciate that, Heather. Thank you very much. Now, I'll tell you about a couple people that have helped bless my life and life of my family today. Okay, I'll tell you about that in just a few minutes. But I want to show you what's going on with these volcanoes. It's go time, literally. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding you about this. Let's start off with Mount Rainier. As you know, as we have talked about before, Mount Rainier is moving. There is sufficient activity to suggest that Mount Rainier is at a position where it is getting ready to erupt. It's in a pre-eruptive stage. Okay? I'm showing you a Pacific Northwest seismic network seismogram here. Okay? I'm going to blow it up here and I'm going to move it around so you can see this. Okay? This is from Camp Sherman. Camp Sherman. Okay? This is over on the north side of Mount Rainier. Look at all the tremors here. Look at all the tremors here. And even slightly larger earthquakes. Now I'm using that word slightly as a euphemism only. Okay? See that great big huge red signal you see right here? That red signal is called a magma churn signal, where superheated magma comes into the volcano. Excuse me. I've got to have some water here. I have this beautiful bottle here that has a thermos in it. I'm sorry, not a thermos, a filter in it. And I'll show it to you in a few minutes. But it filters all my water and makes it very good water to drink. Safe water to drink. Anyway, I've showed this to you before. I'll show it to you again in a short while. Getting back to this magma churn signal here. Magma churn signals typically should be 23 to 24 lines high. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines high. About 43% of real world. 43% of real world. Less than half of what it should be. Okay? So the small events that we see happening here are larger than what USBS or the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network would have us believe. Okay? What we're seeing here are what we would call tremors. 1.4, 1.5, 1.8 tremors here. Especially that that tremor that's down to left of center from this magma churn signal. That's like a 1.8, 1.9 tremor. Let's multiply that times 2. And actually, that's being less generous than that. Because that magma churn signal is not even 50%. But if we multiply the size of what looks to be a tremor, all of a sudden we have a good-sized minor earthquake. A 2.8, 2.9 minor earthquake. Because that tremor is not a tremor. It's a larger earthquake. And all these tremors here are larger than they are saying. Okay? You can see it here. Okay? This is Camp Sherman. This is Camp Sherman, guys. Let's move over and look at Camp Muir. Okay? I want you to take a look at Camp Muir. In order to understand what's going on, we have to go and figure out what we see. This is Camp Muir. This is on the southern side of Mount Rainier. The southern flank, southern side of Mount Rainier. Look what we're seeing. Up at the top again. Okay? This might look like a 1.7, 1.8 tremor. We can't see, or we don't see, any magma churn signals here. Okay? But considering what we've already seen on that other seismogram, we can assume that this seismograph has also been turned down at least less than 50%. So this earthquake that you see up here at the top, okay, the seismogram started out yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening at approximately 5 p.m. Pacific time. So this earthquake here shows it to be at after 6:22 p.m. Pacific time yesterday. If we see what we see is a 1.7, 1.8 tremor, multiply that times 2, and suddenly we're again at 2.8, 2.9. And look at these other events here at Mount Rainier as well. Now, I want to show you something. Okay? This is only what the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network wants you to see. Okay? What I'm going to show you, they're not showing us right now. Well, actually, they are. You can pull up the current seismogram, showing you the current status of activity at Mount Rainier. Again, this is Camp Muir. Look at the activity here. This was just after 5 p.m. today, after I pulled this thing. Look what we're seeing here. Okay? That's a lot of seismic activity happening. Tomorrow, they are not going to show you that. They're going to alter it, and in fact, I will make sure I show you the seismogram that is this one here tomorrow when it's all filled in. You're not going to see any of this tomorrow afternoon. It's not going to happen. There's a lot more activity happening here at Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, and Mount Hood. Okay? There's a lot more activity happening than they're willing to share with us. Now, I have some more information here about Mount Rainier. I want to prove to you what exactly is going on at Mount Rainier. Let's go over to Mount Rainier, Emerald Ridge. The seismogram for Emerald Ridge that we normally see is not available because the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network says it isn't. They've turned it off, or they just don't want to show it. Well, folks, this is a seismogram from Mount Rainier, Emerald Ridge. But the Emerald Ridge seismograph is a multi-channel seismograph. So in this particular instance, the seismograph is recording what's going on inside the volcano. What we're seeing here are VLF waves. Okay? This is the HHN channel at Emerald Ridge at Mount Rainier. The HHN channel allows us to see the activity of the magma inside the volcano. All of these wavy lines here at Emerald Ridge show a heavy-duty amount of magma coming into the volcano. And at times here, you see a heavy-duty amount coming in. The lesser wavy lines here, the less effect that the magma is going to have on the volcano. Okay? But here you see a lot of wavy lines here. VLF waves caused by magma entering the volcano. We didn't see it. We did not see a lot of activity on the seismogram, did we? That's because the seismogram has been altered. Those other seismograms have been altered to only show us what the USBS and the PNSN wants us to see. This seismogram alone, the HHN seismogram, shows us what's going on inside the volcano. Heavy-duty magma infill coming into Mount Rainier. This by itself would suggest that those other seismograms would show a lot of magma, right? Each of those horizontal lines on those other seismograms would be thicker, number one. Number two, magma coming into the volcano is coming in under pressure into the magma channel. It's fracturing the rock. And you can see there's a lot of activity, so we know it's fracturing the rock. But those other seismograms are not showing it, are they? That's because they've been altered. Totally and absolutely altered. Okay? Every one of these seismograms that I'm going to show you tonight, they have altered the seismogram, except for the VLF wave seismograms, the HHN channel on the seismogram. Let's look over at East Dome, Mount St. Helens. We've seen a lot of activity here at the East Dome. The East Dome is where the lava rock from the last eruption hardened into a plug that plugs the volcano. Okay? But you don't see much activity here. Again, some minor tremors here. Minor tremors here. We have a magma churn signal. Again, what does this magma churn signal signify? Very superheated magma coming into the volcano. Out to the side of that magma churn signal, we have some vertical lines. Those vertical lines are steam signals, meaning the steam coming from the magma is being let go. 6 to 7% of all magma is water. Water. Mount Rainier is steaming. Mount St. Helens is steaming. Glacier Peak, Mount Baker, all of the volcanoes are steaming, regardless of what the seismograms say. Why? Because the agency is lying to us, trying to keep the information away from us. In this case, we have a magma churn signal here. Again, typical magma churn signals are 23 to 24 lines in length. Let's find out what this one is here. Let me expand this a little more so you can see it. Okay, let's start down here at the bottom. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 lines high. This is just less than 50%. 23 to 24 lines high, and this is 10 lines high. Just less than 50%, maybe 46% real world. So these tremors that you see here are really minor earthquakes. Minor earthquakes. Look at these steam signals here, down here at the bottom of the seismogram. Vertical lines without a dot in the middle of them are steam signals. Because the seismograph has been so turned down so far, you're not seeing a steam signal with a curlicue on it. Normally you would see a curlicue on the steam signal line, but because the seismograph has been turned down so far down, you're only seeing these vertical lines without dots on them, which are steam signals. If there's a vertical line with a dot on it, it's an earthquake or tremor. You can see steam hitting here. Mount St. Helens is steaming, ladies and gentlemen. Mount St. Helens is steaming. Let there be no doubt about what's going on here at Mount St. Helens. Now, let me show you another seismogram. This time we're going to September lobe. September lobe at Mount St. Helens is a seismograph that's sitting on spindly legs. The seismograph is standing on top of the lava plug of the volcano, similar to what we have at East Dome. Okay? September lobe is sitting on top of the plug. With that plug, it's vibrating. Why is that plug vibrating? Because there's magma beneath it, pushing on it, shaking that plug, shaking the entire volcano. All we're seeing here are tremors here, right? Up at the top of this is the main seismogram coming from September lobe. You're seeing a minor earthquake here, probably just a 2.0, up here at the top center here. This would be 5:40 p.m. last night. Just a 2.0 earthquake. We see a couple others here as well as this on the black line here down to the center left. Okay? This would be probably about, I want to say 7 p.m. last night, 7:01 p.m. last night. Again, this appears to be maybe a 1.7, 1.8 tremor. Knowing what we know now, that these seismograms have been turned down, all of a sudden this 1.7 tremor is probably a 2.7, 2.8 earthquake. See all this activity in the center of this seismogram? This is after midnight last night at Mount St. Helens. See these other tiny vertical lines here? Tremors and microquakes at Mount St. Helens. Now, folks, that is the main seismogram for September lobe. They call it the spider. They call it the spider. Let me show you the VLF wave portion of this seismogram. Okay? Again, the seismograph at September lobe on Mount St. Helens is a multi-channel seismograph. In this case, this particular channel is showing us again what's going on with the magma infill coming into the mountain. Okay? I showed you the main channel here. Very little information there. That's because that seismogram has been doctored. Look what we're seeing here. At 5 p.m. yesterday, there's very little magma making its way into Mount St. Helens. There's very little movement. But what happens after 6 p.m.? Over on the left-hand side it says 1800. 1800 over here on the left-hand side. That's 6 p.m. The magma starts in there. It gets busier. And after 6 p.m. to after midnight, last night, early this morning, Mount St. Helens was very busy. A ton of magma poured into Mount St. Helens. You can see it here. Those wavy lines are made by the incoming magma into Mount St. Helens. What that seismogram that I showed you a few minutes ago should be saying, it isn't. Because the seismologists at Pacific Northwest Seismic Network have altered the seismogram. They did not alter this. This is what you typically see. Now, after about 4 or 5 a.m. this morning, the busyness of the magma coming into the volcano slowed way down for several hours. Then, at about 10 a.m. this morning, it kicked in again. You can see 10 over on the left-hand side. That's 10 a.m. this morning. Look what we're seeing. Increased magma infill activity. Increased magma infill activity here at Mount St. Helens. You don't see this on the other seismogram because they're hiding the information. They're altering it. They're altering a federal document. This is a state document. But the fact of the matter is, the USGS is saying that they get their information from the PNSN. If they get their information from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, guess what? The state document becomes a federal document. How's that possible, Ron? Under Title 18, Section 13 of the United States Code, the United States law makes a state document a federal document. It makes a state law a federal law. So, guess what? The state of Washington is altering these documents. They are altering it at the behest of the U.S. Geological Survey. The Pacific Northwest Seismic Network is breaking the law. USGS is also breaking the law. I'm just saying. They can't have it both ways. It does not work that way. Look again here. Look again. This center area from just after 8 p.m. last night, 2000 hours, the magma got really busy. That's not what it shows here on the seismogram. This morning, just before midnight, it shows an increase in activity. But they've turned down the dadgum seismograph. So we're not showing as much activity as we normally see. The horizontal lines here should show very thick horizontal lines, because the more magma you have coming into the magma chamber, you would see here on each individual line here on the seismogram. That's not what they're showing here. They're showing some increased activity in terms of tremors and minor earthquakes, but that's all. Then down here at the bottom again, it shows a small increase in tremor activity, but this has also been altered. See, the agencies can't have it both ways. They either tell the truth all the time or none of the time. And they get away with none of the time a lot. A lot. Let me show you one more at Mount Hood. Okay? I can't wait to show you this actually. Okay? Let's start off with Palmer Lift. Palmer Lift is upside the southern flank of the mountain, just up from Government Camp. Okay, this is a ski resort. Palmer Lift is a ski resort on the southern side of Mount Hood. Okay, what are we seeing here? Up at the top of this seismogram at 5 p.m. yesterday afternoon, we had a fairly thick line. But again, the agency, in its infinite wisdom, has turned down the seismograph. So the thick line is not clearly visible here. They've turned it down. And you see very little of any other activity after that. But all of a sudden, let's go down here to the middle of this seismogram. Okay? Now we're showing you just before 4 o'clock this morning, 3:30 this morning, into 4 o'clock this morning, 4:15 this morning. We're showing you some tremors, aren't we? We're showing you tremors. Then we move into the morning hours of awake time for the rest of us in the rest of the world. What are we seeing here? They're moving the paper. They're moving the seismograph. Okay? How do we know that? Look at the lines here. These lines are altered. These lines are normally completely horizontal, not perpendicular. Okay? They've altered the seismograph. They've altered the corresponding seismogram here. Yes, we're showing an increase in activity here at Mount Hood. Okay? At Palmer Lift. Okay? What else is going on? What else is going on that they're not telling us? Folks, let's look at Timberline. I'm going to show you 2 seismograms from Timberline. This is the normal seismogram that you'd see at Timberline. Okay? It shows a lot of activity, doesn't it? At times, it doesn't show much activity at all. Like after 5 p.m. last night. Very little activity at all. 5:30 last night, we had some tremor activity because we had an increase in magma here just after 5:30 on the blue line there. You see a thicker blue line, which is indicative of magma infill coming in. It's called a magma pulse signal. A magma pulse signal, where the line gets thicker and gets thinner again. An increase in activity, we see vertical lines on this line, don't we? Because the magma is fracturing rock inside the magma chamber of the volcano. The magma is coming in under pressure, isn't it? Fracturing the rock. But because the seismograph has been turned so far down, all we're seeing is tiny tremors here and very little magma. If the seismograph had been turned up to where it should have been, this line would be considerably thicker. And we could see the individual individual vertical lines here, showing you the tremors and/or earthquakes that are happening because of that magma coming into the magma chamber. Look down here late last night, just before midnight. On that blue line is 11:45 p.m. last night. About 11:45 p.m. last night, it shows us some minor tremor activity, and we have this good sized, what looks to be a tremor here of maybe 1.6, 1.7 tremor. The seismograph was turned down. This tremor probably was a 2.5, 2.6 earthquake. Just saying. Again, we see an increased level of magma on the horizontal line. Magma infill entering the volcano. Look at these other lines as well. An increase in magma coming into the volcano. You can see the magma pulse signal in full view here. The line getting thicker and getting thinner again. And you can see the individual tremors increasing because the magma is fracturing the rock inside the volcano. All over here, look at this. Look at this activity. On this black line here, just about 7 a.m. this morning. This black line is 7 a.m. this morning. About 7:08, 7:09 this morning on this black line, this looks to be nearly a 3.0 earthquake. The seismograph being turned down, this is probably at least a 3.0, 3.5 earthquake here at Mount Hood. Look at the other tremors before and after that earthquake. After that earthquake, we have a secondary wave. That secondary wave lasted how long here? 2.5 minutes. That tells me, even though the seismograph has been turned down, having a secondary wave lasting 2 to 2.5 minutes tells me, or should tell all of us, that this was close to a 3.0, 3.4 magnitude earthquake. A small earthquake, not typically a 2.8, 2.9. This was a much larger earthquake. And out to the right of that, we have a body wave. A body wave, guys. That is serious. Look at these other earthquakes here as well. This is Timberline at government camp. The seismograph is at government camp. They call it Timberline here. Okay? Now, on this particular seismograph, the Timberline seismograph, we have another channel. It's called the HHN channel at Timberline. Right here. Guess what? On the HHN channel, we see the VLF waves here. The incoming magma into the volcano. Up at the top here, remember on the other seismogram, we showed the increase in magma causing the tiny tremors? In this case, this seismogram has also been turned down, but we're seeing the VLF waves anyway. This proves the idea that I just told you about the magma coming into the volcano here causing these tremors. You can see the tremors happening. The increase in magma here causing increased activity at the volcano. Again, they tried turning this seismograph down here on this channel, but we're still seeing the effect of the magma coming into the magma chamber. They can't hide everything, but they sure try, don't they? Now, you guys think we had a crash of our signal here? Let's check. It says we still have a good signal here, 2600, 2800 kilobytes per second coming into our computer here and leaving here. So we're doing good here. Hopefully. I hope we're on the air still. Hurricane Heather says that doesn't happen at 1 magnitude. No, it doesn't. We had earthquakes today at Mount Hood. There were at least 3.0 earthquakes at Mount Hood, as I showed you by these seismograms. Every one of these volcanoes here, Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, and Mount Hood, are getting ready to erupt. There's plenty of evidence of that. And I have other evidence that I can show that too. I have other seismograms showing you activity at those other volcanoes. Sisters Volcano, Newberry Volcano, Crater Lake Volcano, Mount Lassen, Mount Shasta, Mammoth Volcano over in east central California, and of course the volcano east of there. Guess what? That one there is also showing signs of extreme stress. Fact. I'll show you those seismograms this week. Don Patoga says Ron signals a 5x9 crash in your house. Really? That's interesting. Let me check something real quick here.